Yeah, as SC Closer here. Friends call me Vic. A Vic Sea Stories and Tall Tales. Wearing my Tripoli hat. This is one of my original hats from the USS Tripoli. It's probably one of the last ones I had. You see on there, I got EM2 Vic. It's probably backwards on there, but I was in second class and people called me Vic. That was my little logo. Anyhow, this is a good story. I like this story. This is all about Navy adventure. That was the thing they said back when I first joined. It's like it's not just a job, it's an adventure. And we really had a lot of adventures in the Navy. There's other parts to this story, but I'm going to start this one off. We had an unexpected mission we had to go on, and we made an to us unexpected port call in Pattaya Beach, Thailand. So when we got there, we anchored out, and they ran Liberty boats in, and so the ship was anchored out, and there was like a little barge platform like next to the ship, and the Liberty boats would come up to that. And we would climb down a ladder down the side of the ship from the quarterdeck out to that little platform. And then we would get on these little ferry boats is what they were. They hired them to come in. They weren't part of the ship's, fleet or anything like that. We had a little small fleet of boats, but we weren't running our own. And we would ride these ferries, and they would take us up to, so many feet, I guess 40, 50 feet or so, maybe from the beach. And then you had to jump out and wade through the water. It's about knee deep, and you had to wade through the water up on the beach. So when we got there, we jump off the little ferries and we're wading through, and we get up there on the beach and we walk up there, and there's a main road that runs parallel with the beach, and all these little clubs and bars and everything's up there. And there's a huge sign up there. It said, "Welcome, U.S. Navy." Named every ship in our amphibious assault group. We didn't know we were going, but they knew we were coming. I guess they have to clear things, the politicians do. They have to clear things through the State Department, say, hey, we got ships coming in and everything. So they had word that we were coming before we even knew we were coming. So anyway, we had some issue with something in the plant. So the engineers were on what we call port and starboard duty. And port and starboard duty means half the engineering department's on duty, the other half's off, and then you switch. So I was on the side, I was starboard, I guess you'd say, because I got to go on Liberty first. And I think we had two days. And then we had to be back in 2 days, and then the other half of the department, they got to go out for 2 days because we were there for 4. So I went on there to the beach, and that's a whole nother story about what all went on in Thailand. I'll tell you a little bit of that in some other episodes. But suffice it to say that we had a really, really good time in Thailand. And we had to be back on the ship, and we had to be back, we had to be back like 6:30 a.m. or something. So the last ferry that we could catch to get back in time left before we could get to it. And I'm running down there. We see the thing leaving. I'm running down there to the beach, and some of the other guys, friends of mine, they were the HTs from our division. I was good friends with many of those guys. I know 2 or 3 of those guys were there, and if they're watching this, they know who they are. And there was 5 or 6 of us. We were like, oh my God, we missed that ferry, because if we waited for it to come back, we were going to be late. And if we were late going back, we were going to be all kind of trouble, and we would be put on restriction, and we wouldn't be able to, you did not want to be put on restriction when you're on a deployment going to all these ports. Particularly young guys like us, we didn't want to miss out on this stuff. And so we were all upset. So we said, well, we got to hire a speedboat to run this ferry down. Now, the speedboats were not allowed, the captain would not allow the speedboats to come up next to the ship. So the speedboat could not take us to that little platform. They would not allow it to dock, okay? And we knew that because they told us that many times before we got there, that the only boats that were allowed to dock next to that little platform were the ferries that they had hired. So we went and got this speedboat, and we paid this guy, and we're like, look, run down that ferry. You've got to run down that ferry. We've got to catch that ferry. So he's like, yeah. So we pay him the money, we get him bought, whatever it was. And he takes off. We're hanging on, and it's like real early morning. It's still kind of dark, And the ship's anchored out there, and all in between, there's all these small boats all out there anchored, and they got mooring lines all over the place, and they're just all out there, right? And we're going around them and stuff, and we're going through. The whole time we're running down this boat, man, and this one fellow, I think it was Anderson, he was standing up at the front like he was leading us, Anyway, we're going along, and the next thing I know, bam, we hit a mooring line, almost capsized, and the boat, shuts off and everything. We all fly all over the place. Luckily, nobody fell out. So the guy's like, the guy driving the boat, everybody okay? Okay? And we're like, yeah, we're fine. Catch that ferry. Yeah, I said, we don't care. Catch that ferry. So he cranks the boat back up. He's running the ferry down. We finally catch up to the ferry. The ferry's already getting up there next to the little dock. We pull up on the other side of the ferry. We jump across the speedboat onto the ferry. From the ferry, we jump up on the little dock. We climb up there to the quarterdeck. And a friend of mine up there, we'll just call him Terry. He was from Boston. Terry's going to be in a lot of these stories. I didn't work with Terry, but Terry he was always where the action was. But he was on quarterdeck watch, and he was laughing. And we went up there, showed IDs, request permission to come aboard, and said, come aboard. And I said, Terry, why are you laughing at us? He's like, man, he said, we've been watching you come across there. And he said, and the officer at the deck up here said, if they don't catch that ferry, if they don't walk across that ferry, they're not coming on board this ship. He said, you don't know how close you guys came to being AWOL. He says, because the officer at the deck was not going to let you come off of that speedboat directly onto that dock. He said, so that was the only way you were getting back on this ship.